Hello and welcome back to Charging Status, the EV-focused podcast brought to you from the interface. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jim Starling. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I am good, thank you.
Good. I said it like that because obviously you've been less than good. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're bearing up now.
Yeah. Just before we get into bits and pieces, you might have noticed, but we're on a new place on YouTube. So if you only listen to our lovely voices and audio and not look at our interesting faces, none of this will be any relevance to you. But we've had to do some juggling around with YouTube. Just my inexperience with doing this stuff. I decided everything on one channel would be a good idea, and it just wasn't. So hopefully now there's some more relevance in the feed on YouTube. So we're at youtube.com/ at charging status. So it's only going to be the two of us on there, and then the other podcasts, if you did enjoy those, they're on their own channels as well now. So just to clear that up, if you are wondering where we are.
So head over to the new YouTube channel and subscribe. Charging Status EV podcast, or just at Charging Status works particularly well.
Yeah.
So Alex, what have you been up to? You've had an interesting month.
Yeah, so last time we recorded, we were in the back of the EV9, and I was saying, I've got quite a busy month ahead of me. I actually had two cars booked in. I had to cancel, 3 cars booked in. I had to cancel and move around because I had to go in for some surgery. So I'm all good now. It means I missed a few things. I missed Fully Charged that you went to. I missed driving the new motor and different things, but it was important to get it all done. But I'm all good now. So.
Thank God that penis reduction went as well as it did. I mean, you couldn't have carried that thing around for any longer.
It was such a burden. Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
It's caused me great problems. So it's all good now.
So you missed out on everything electric, which was a shame. But you have had a few things still going on, haven't you? Or was everything postponed?
I postponed everything. So I had a Mercedes E-Vito booked in. I've moved that. I had Subaru Solterra was supposed to be this week, I think. I can't remember, and that's been moved. I did have the GWM Aura 03 arrive. That arrived on Monday.
And how long have you got that for?
Until the end of January.
How?
I've always wanted to do a long-term review of an EV. So I just asked, and they said yes. So
it's because you're such a mover and shaker, an influencer. This is how this has happened. It's really good though, isn't it?
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have something for a long period of time and actually find out every one of its quirks and also for you, obviously you don't own an EV, do you? So
no, shock. Yeah. So the closest I've got to the experience of an EV and charging it at home and stuff was I went on holiday for a few days with the EV9, and the Airbnb I went to had a charger that you could use, and that was the closest I got. So you just went to sleep, and it was full in the morning. It's like magic. So it'd be quite nice to have that sort of experience. So hopefully, going to get this EV charger installed at some point. I have inquired, so we shall see what happens with that.
Cool, sounds good. Alex is having my Easy One charger that I had previously.
Yep.
And hopefully it will make life much easier when you're doing reviews and stuff as well.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Okay. So I haven't been up to too much either. I had the I jest, folks. I've had the Everything Electric show in Farnborough. It was good.
Is it right?
But it was a little bit small, I thought. Okay. The press tour was good this time because the fully charged mob were taking us round. So Dan, Robert, and Jack were taking us around on the press tour, and Imogen occasionally. And I think they did a really good job of that. But I just thought it was slightly lacking in terms of the people that had kind of turned up to exhibit. And I don't know how good the ticket sales were because they did a really, really cheap ticket thing right at the end, which is sometimes a little bit of a warning sign. It may just be that they've overdone it a bit because, 2 events in one calendar year. Well, 4 actually, I guess, if you count it says north and south for everything, isn't there?
They're not doing a north one this year. This year they did
Okay.
London, which I went to by myself.
Did London, yeah.
That was good. I got there late for various reasons, so I missed the press tour. But and then they did. I think they did one in Vancouver this year as well.
Mm.
And apparently Robert was saying that was a massive success, which was really good because there's lots of things going on there. So,
and they did the Harrogate one earlier in the year, didn't they? Did they?
Harrogate was 2023. That one. They're not doing.
Oh, okay.
The North one this year for some reason. I don't know why. So,
right.
Yeah.
It felt. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'd certainly go to it again. But if that is something you're going to, I think one day's probably enough for most people.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days after that, I got on the Eurostar and went to Paris and covered the Paris Motor Show.
Mm.
That was really fantastic. It was great to go to sort of a full-size show after going to Geneva earlier in the year. That was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
Some really cool stuff on show there. The only thing I didn't see that I'd hoped to see was the launch of the BYD Sea Lion.
Oh, okay.
And that's simply because it was at 3 p.m. or something. And by that time, I was well into the edit on my video because I really wanted to get it out as early as possible. And the video's done really, really well. So I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
But I was there at 7 a.m, filming until just after midday. And then I got back to the hotel, edited and uploaded. And I think the video went out about 4 o'clock.
I was surprised when I saw that hit my notifications. I was like, oh my God, how have you got that out so quick? It was an hour-long video. So, that's very, very impressive. So well done with that.
Thank God I had a decent internet connection at the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Because that would have scuppered the whole thing. But yes, loads of Chinese brands there in the EV space, obviously. Some that I wasn't aware of. A new Japanese brand as well, or new to me anyway, TH something. I can't remember now. I've slept several times since then, but really amazing looking sort of luxury cars. We had Honky, I think that's how you say it, were there. And then some other sort of new entrants to the market. And in general, I just thought it was a really great show from all the manufacturers that turned up. One that didn't make any effort was Tesla. And a couple of people referenced that in the comments of my video. And I sort of thought, well,
they don't
really need to, do they? People are buying the cars hand over fist. So why spend, I don't know, £1 million on a stand? And I walked foolishly straight past the Tesla Model Y, as I've got one. And it was actually the 7-seat version. So I could have had a poke around in that, and I didn't. However, next month I'm off to LA, and I'm sure there'll be one there. So I'll get to have an embarrassing sit in the back, no doubt. I can't usually get into the back of a 7-seater with too much grace, but hopefully I'll get to do it then. And then over the last week, I've had the Ioniq 5N, which has just been absolutely breathtaking. I'd love to own one, but probably never should, because I'm not convinced that I might not lose my license if I had one. The really surprising thing about that car, obviously I've driven one several times now, but this week's the first time I've driven one to Sainsbury's and driven one to IKEA and used it as a normal everyday car. Honestly, when you put that car into eco mode, you're in a normal Ioniq 5. It feels like a completely normal everyday car.
Really?
And even when you're in the most ferocious sports mode, the suspension is still, I would class, comfortable. It doesn't feel like the shocks have been filled with concrete or anything, as it would in cars with similar performance generally. And the engineering that's gone into that thing is just on a different level. It is absolutely incredible. Very, very clever piece of kit. Everything you've seen online that says how good the car is, believe it. Nobody's underplaying this thing. Nobody's overplaying it, sorry. It's just an astonishing car.
Yeah. How was your? I know it's not very relevant, but how was your efficiency on it? Because I've seen some people mention. I think at the same time as you, I think Natisha Chatton had the Ioniq 5N at the same
Yeah,
time. I think she mentioned she didn't get above 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Is that
yeah.
about right?
I didn't get above 3. And when you're driving enthusiastically, you can probably halve that, um, which is interesting.
Yep.
And on 100% charge, it was showing me a predicted like 230 of
Yeah.
range or something around there. Um, but yeah, it's not efficient, but neither is an M5.
And
You
this is
know,
I
that's
look at this like when I had the EV9, I was like, oh, I'm not getting above 2.5. But
yeah,
my excuse, well, not excuse, but my reasoning for that was that the EV9 is cheaper than a Range Rover. It's and you can fill up for like £5 at home. You can't do that with a Range Rover. So that's
yeah.
probably the same sort of analogy plays out. You can shoot. Yeah,
And what's your MPG in a Range Rover?
I got
You
no
know,
idea.
you could
So
be looking at, in some of them, you'll be looking
30.
at 10.
Oh, really? 10.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I
yeah,
mean, some of those real performance cars, and particularly something as huge as a Range Rover, you know, you are sometimes in single digits.
yeah.
So
It's the same sort of
um,
thing for the
yeah,
5N.
a huge, heavy sort of brick of a car is not going to be efficient. But if you add performance into the mix, then yeah, that's only going to go one way.
Fair enough. So hopefully, look forward to your review coming soon. So very nice.
Yeah, that's out on. Well, it's probably out by the time you listen to this. If not, I think it's out. I think it's coming out on Monday, the 28th of October.
Nice. I doubt you've had time to watch or listen to this episode, but I over the weekend or early this week I watched. This is since I watched the episode. It's this news has hit the mainstream news in a big way. So Robert Llewellyn recorded a podcast episode, the second episode he's done with the Ford CEO Jim Farley, and there
Hmm.
was two really interesting points that he made. One of them was that he daily drives a Xiaomi SU7 and loves it.
Yeah,
So that yesterday hit the mainstream Chinese news. It hit every single big outlet you could think of. It is hit. So they shipped it over from China for him, and he's been driving it for 6 months, and he doesn't want to give it back. Which he said it's incredibly impressive. Which is just a CEO of a major brand. That's just insane for something for him to say. Um,
yeah, that's a quite a bold admission, isn't it?
yeah. And the second point was that Ford are secretly working on brand new groundbreaking EVs.
Hmm.
They've got a Skunk Works operation in California that even he doesn't have access to, which,
Hmm.
and they said they're working hard to compete with the EVs that are coming out of China. So there's a link in the description and the show notes to watch that episode. But I thought that Robert did a really good job of just letting Jim just talk, so it's quite good.
So I did a video about something Jim Farley said recently,
Mm,
and it was basically that Ford are not going to make boring cars anymore. And you could read between the lines of that to say Ford are now going to make very expensive cars, which seemed to be the point he was kind of making, which is along the lines of we can't compete with the Chinese, so we'll just do something different.
yep.
Um, and whilst I totally understand that from a pure kind of bottom line perspective, we have to remember that Ford is an everyman brand, and I think probably in his position in the US, perhaps it's easy to forget that the US market for Ford is incredibly different to the UK and EU market for Ford,
Hmm.
where Ford has been built on Fiestas and Focus and those kind of little vehicles that are, you know, were relatively cheap to get into.
Hmm.
So I think it could be a really tough transition for Ford. The Skunk Works thing is interesting. You know, maybe that is going to be something completely bold and new and utterly different, and that will change the game a bit. But in recent years, Ford have gone to this kind of one world approach where the whole
Yeah.
world gets the same models, and it hasn't worked for them here. I don't think at all. I think the new Explorer looks like a good car that will probably sell well. And aside from that, I haven't seen anything from them as an EV that's been particularly mind-boggling or um, even that competitive, if we're being completely honest.
No.
So I think they've got a ton of work to do. But the fact that he's driving around in a Xiaomi and saying, this is fantastic, and he's taking that much of an interest in it,
Oh yeah.
I think shows a real determination to compete. And
Yeah.
he's probably as aware as everyone else that they're not at the moment. So very interesting times for Ford. Let's just hope they don't forget about their core audience on this side of the water. But yeah, there's a lot of positives in what you had to say, I think. Um, Folks, just a reminder, we've already told you we're on a new place on YouTube, but please don't forget to review the show, like it, subscribe, follow, whatever it is on your particular platform. Anything you can do to spread the word really does help and is massively appreciated by myself and Alex.
Yeah. Thank you. Awesome. We've got a few bits of news to get through. So last few weeks, Hyundai announced the pricing and some of the specs for the Insta, and I understand that you saw it in person at Fully Charged with everything electric. So sorry.
Yeah, um, it's very wee. It's
Mm.
definitely very wee. It's got really interesting boot. You've probably seen it, have you, Alex? But Um,
Um.
the boot's really small, but you
Okay.
can then move the back row seats forward and have a bigger boot. So
Oh right. No, I didn't
I
see
g
that.
yeah, so I guess the thinking is most of the time, people with that car will be driving with just it'll be themselves and one passenger,
Yep.
so they can have the extra luggage space. But you could still cram a couple of people
Hmm.
kind of in the back with force.
That's cool.
But you can move that rear bench forward and just give yourself a bigger boot. And the parcel cover kind of thing
Yep.
is sort of built to uh, adapt.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's quite cool. So it's a
Yeah.
really interesting design, and it's it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, the looks of it, but I think it's a
Yep.
really interesting design and just really bold and another great step forward for
Hmm.
EVs for Hyundai. Really,
Yeah. How big is it? Do you think compared to the Seat Me or the Up?
it's it's difficult to say. It feels narrower, I would say,
Right.
than those two, but perhaps a bit longer and a bit taller.
Oh, okay.
Um, but it's hard to say, isn't it? Because
Yeah. Of course.
especially at everything electric, it was sitting next to a Ioniq 5N, which is a big car,
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so sometimes that sort of deceives your eye a little bit. But it felt
Hmm.
to me a little bit narrower inside. It didn't feel particularly like
Yeah. Yeah.
a spacious interior, I would say.
Yeah, I was gutted I couldn't go and see it because I was looking forward to seeing that in person. But
Mm.
I know Hyundai are doing the Insta Road Show, so I'm going to go and see it in person. One of the Hyundai dealers near me at some point next month. So
Okay, cool.
that'd be quite good. But the
Mm.
specs, so prices are from £23,500, which is a good price, really, in my opinion. Two battery sizes, 42 kilowatt hours and 49 kilowatt hours, and that gives you 186 miles of range or 217 miles of range, which is
Hmm.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's really good. And the yeah, as you said, the seats fold, or sort of move around. The um, the top spec version is 25. Sorry, that's wrong. The top spec version. Actually, we don't know the pricing for that just yet. I don't believe, but you can actually have the larger battery from both. So you can have the larger battery from the 02 trim in the 01 trim if you want it, and that will cost you just over 25 grand.
Okay.
And one of the things I found really interesting is that all the versions come with a heat pump as standard, which is just
Y-
fantastic.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? I mean, that's unbelievable, really, at that price point.
Yep, that's really good. And then it's a NMC battery, and it has 85 kilowatt DC fast charging. So yeah, good little car. I'm looking forward to driving that whenever. That'd be quite nice.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? Is getting behind the wheel of these
Yep,
things. I mean, everything looks great on paper, but we do need to have a drive.
yep. We alluded to a Nissan Ariya Nismo at some point in an earlier episode this year, I
Mhm.
believe. But they've announced the specs and the pricing for the Ariya Nismo. It's going to cost £56,000 in the UK, just over 56 grand, and that will get you 429 brake horsepower, 600 newton meters of torque, and just like the Ioniq 5N, the Ariya Nismo is going to have some Formula E sound effects. So
Mm.
not sure what they're going to sound like, but that'd be quite cool. So
Yeah. I don't know how well it will do over here, but I could see it doing well in some other markets.
yeah,
But I mean, it's significantly cheaper than the Ioniq 5N.
about 10k,
Um,
isn't it? I think.
yeah, but it's a bit of a different proposition. Um,
Yeah, I like the interior. We've got some red mood lighting. We've got a little red thing on the steering wheel.
yeah, it looks really cool.
Looks good. Yeah.
And I think the standard Aria is a brilliant car. So,
Yeah, I agree.
and I could see that working as a Nismo car, and I'm sure they wouldn't put a Nismo badge on something that's not deserving of it.
Mm,
It's for me now for performance EVs after having the pseudo gears in the
yep.
Ioniq 5N. It kind of makes you think that people need to do something, I don't know,
Yep.
similar. I hate to say copy, but I think that's been so effective at basically taking an electric vehicle and making it really sort of engage with a petrol head, if you like, that I think other manufacturers now probably need to start thinking about following along with something very, very similar.
Yep. This next item is the Citroën Ami. When you went to Paris, did you see this little car in person, the sort of
Yeah,
facelift version?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So they had the facelift there, and they had like a stack of Amis, which was quite cool. Three basically on top of each other. Um,
Interesting.
there's sort of different versions of Ami, but yeah, the new one's there. It looks really cool.
Yep.
I didn't get any information about it while I was there but actually, in general, the information on display was pretty poor. It was
Oh,
more
okay.
just here's the car, but not a great deal of
Mm.
information. And obviously, when there was information, it was all in French. And so, and to be honest, I didn't have time to stop and read and kind of work it out. So,
Yeah.
um, but no, it looked quite cool.
Yeah. I was doing a lot of reporting. I managed to get quite a bit of content out during the motor show, but it was just
Mm,
reporting on whatever information I had from the car companies. But as far as I understand it, Citroen said that the specs have not changed. This is just a
mhm,
design refresh for whatever reason. So yeah, apparently they've sold 65,000 Amis worldwide since 2020, whenever the first one came out. So that's pretty
mhm.
impressive.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's on sale in the UK in 2025, so probably the same price. But again, we don't know.
cool.
What did you think about the Renault 4?
Uh, it's not really my cup of tea,
No?
I have to say. But I mean, the Renault 5 just delights me, absolutely
Yeah, it's
delights
great.
me. The Renault 4 is not particularly my cup of tea,
That's fair
but
enough.
I think it'll do really well.
Hmm.
100 kilowatt charging.
Yeah,
It's got good range, and it should be a real rival to something like the Insta. It'd be interesting to see how it's priced.
yeah, we don't know that information yet, unfortunately. So,
I don't know if you saw in the video, but there was a range of kind of add-ons that went with the Renault 4 as well, including this like tiny little caravan.
oh,
There was also like a jet ski, but that looked like a moped. Lots of funky stuff, but it was away
ah,
from the main Renault stand, which was slightly odd. But it is in the video somewhere if you want to trawl through an
I
hour of me waffling.
think, I think alongside the Renault 4 there was an electric. I think there were concepts like an electric little airplane,
Yeah,
electric jet ski, and something else.
that's it. Yeah, a little motorbike.
Yeah, so it was sort of
Yeah, but
possibly showing what you could do with
yeah,
electric power.
but the caravan was there, and it had like a big 4 on the side of it, and it was the
Okay.
same color as the Renault 4 that was in all the media, everything.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, that looked really cool.
yeah, that's good.
Mm,
So yeah, that's going to be built in France, and it'll be out in 2025. Again, we don't know the pricing, but it's got a very similar interior to the Renault 4. So I guess that design language is something they're going to push
yeah.
forward with, and it's quite a nice design. So good on them.
Hmm.
Um, I managed to find this bit of news. It was quite interesting. So Roadchef in the UK, for those who are not from the UK, they operate a large number of the service stations on the motorway. Some of them aren't very nice, but anyway, there's 21 of them in the UK. And there's a I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's either Swedish or Swiss. There's a £20 billion investment into various things in the UK from this company called Macquarie. And some of that money is going to be spent on EV chargers at Roadchef service stations. So there's going to be 650 stations built at, I assume, all of the 21 stations they've got in the UK. But also that money they're investing is going to go into brand new homes, but also wind energy as well. So I thought this is really good because a lot of the Roadchef stations they've got chargers, but they're really old. They're like from the early days of EVs that we had in the UK, so maybe like 2013, 2014. They're a bit long in the tooth now, so this is quite good to see some investment being piled in. I did reach out to Macquarie, and they got back to me and said they don't know what CPO, so they couldn't confirm exactly what charge point operators they were going to use, but they know that it's GridServe and Shell. So, but that's good to be confirmed. So, but GridServe is all right. So,
Yeah, Shell not so much, but GridServe seems to be good. So
yeah, so that's good. Because I know the Roadchef services I've been to personally, they don't have very good charging facilities. So,
yeah, it's the same. Any that are sort of relatively close to me, they'll
yeah.
have like 2 chargers, and
Mm.
it's just not great, is it? A lot of the actual service stations themselves are showing their age, though. So
They smell a bit. So,
yeah, so do I. But
I wasn't going to say that, but
yeah, my kids still love me.
oh. We're on the subject of motorway stuff. Sorry, I can't remember his name. There's a guy I follow on Twitter who works for Tesla UK, their supercharging network, and he's
Hmm.
been very active on updating us or updating people where and when they're building stuff. And I've noticed a lot of the stations they're building soon, they've updated on the website that are at motorway services now, especially on the M5. They're really focusing on putting V4 chargers in on the motorway for everyone to use, which is good news.
Which makes massive sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Because most people are only going to use a public charger when they're on a long journey because they
yep.
want to charge from home when they can. So
Mm.
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Mm. I don't know if you've seen anything about this, but I spotted on a Korean website that they've spotted the Genesis GV60 facelift out and about, and they've actually got some spy shots.
Hmm.
So this facelift is due in 2025, and I've noticed from the interior shots that it's got the Genesis G80 in the US have just been refreshed recently. It's got brand new OLED screens. The infotainment screen's all really thin and quite bright, and then the steering wheel has also been sort of redesigned. And this is what the GV60's got. So we've got that new steering wheel. It's not so round. The round steering wheel of the GV60 looks a bit strange. So they've made it a bit more normal looking, and the screens are a lot thinner as well. But the thing we're expecting is the battery to get bigger. So with the Ioniq 5
Yeah,
refresh, we've got a larger battery, 84 kilowatt hours. So this is expected to have that. So we should see that next year. So that'd be all good.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to have one of those in for a week again and
Yeah,
spend some time with it.
yeah, me too. That'd be good.
Mm.
And then very lastly, you alluded to it earlier in the episode, but the Tesla Model Y now has a 7-seater option for the UK and
Hmm.
Europe. And there are some weird stipulations with it. So it's only available on one trim level. So the mid-range trim, the long-range all-wheel drive, that's the only one you can spec it on. And it costs £2,500 as an option extra. You can have it in black or white as well. But I found it weird that it was only on one trim level. It's a bit strange, but oh
Yeah,
well.
it's a bit odd. I guess that's the one most likely. 'Cause you'd think it's going to be people with families that are thinking about
Mm,
doing longer trips, maybe. But
yeah,
yeah, it does seem slightly odd.
yeah,
Obviously, they've refreshed their lineup a bit generally, haven't they?
they
Now,
have.
so
Yeah,
they've now got those rear-wheel drive, long-range versions of the Teslas, which look really well priced, I think, for what you get.
yeah. You did a video on
Um,
that recently, so I'll link your video in the show notes as well for that.
okay, cool. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But yeah, I guess they're just. I mean, that 7-seat one's been available in the US for years, I think.
It has.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, the Model S and the Model X were also 7-seat versions. I think the Model S had those weird seats, like what do they call them? Parachute seats that sort of face out the back. That was
Yeah.
an option extra for a time. So yeah, I'm not sure how. I don't know. I haven't sat in the Model Y for ages, but I don't know how the roof line. I don't know how that would work. I guess it's just for kids and stuff in the back.
It's going to be really tight, I would
Yeah.
say. I mean, it's a massive boot, but to put humans in there, I would think is going to be very, very tight.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. So what are you doing in the next month, Alex? What's happening? What are you driving? What are you doing?
So I've got the Genesis. So I've got, even though I've got the Aura, I've still got cars arriving because I need to get videos out. So I've got the Genesis G80 arriving on Tuesday. MG3 later in the month, later next month. I'm going to Porsche's head office at some point in November to drive the Taycan for one day. So I'll get a
Mhm.
video out, like first impressions with that. And then this end of November as well. So this is all stuff before we record next time. I got the ID Buzz. I don't know if that's the cargo all the people versions. So we shall
Oh,
see.
okay.
I've got no idea. And just some more testing with the Aura. So yeah.
Cool.
Um, it's not really related, but it's my 5-year anniversary with my girlfriend next month. But we're going to James May's pub, which is not too far away from you.
Yeah,
So I'm
is it near Salisbury or?
probably it's in. I don't. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But yeah, no, it looks really good. I've always wanted to go for a long time, and hopefully the hype has died down now, so that'd be quite nice. So
Yeah, I watched someone doing a review there actually, and it did look really good. The food looked amazing. It just looked like a really nice place.
yeah,
So I should probably go there really, as it's not too far away.
yeah.
But
And then
yeah.
sort of news for the show. It's actually the 2-year anniversary this month of the Charging Status podcast.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and long-time listeners of the show will know that I started the show with James,
Hmm.
different James, but we've been doing it since April, I think, last year. But yeah, it's time goes very quickly, especially when I don't know if you find that doing stuff on the internet now, publishing stuff and looking ahead in your schedule and calendars and stuff. Time just seems to disappear
When
much more
when did
quickly
I?
than it used to.
Yeah. Oh, completely.
Yeah,
When did I start doing it?
I think it was April 2023.
Last year.
Yeah,
God, yeah, it really does
yeah,
go
yeah.
quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was going
Wow.
through it when I was moving the videos to the new YouTube channel, which was a pain.
Mm,
I was going through all the episodes and updating all the links and stuff. I was like, oh my God, it's actually been 2 years. So
crikey.
time goes very, very quickly.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, especially for me at the moment, it seems to be
Yeah.
insane. Um, but there
Right.
we go.
What have you got coming up in the next few weeks and stuff?
I've just had the Prius plug-in hybrid delivered today, so I've got that this week. I've got the Mini
Oh,
Cooper S next
nice.
week, which is petrol, and then I've got BMW launch I think on the 14th, which um, it's the X3 and also the 1 Series
Okay.
and the Mini Aceman. Now, I've booked the BMW 1 Series, but if I get a chance to take the Aceman out, I certainly will. The Acemans are the only car in the Mini range which is EV only.
Okay.
Everything else is EV and petrol. Um, so if I do get a chance to take that out, I will. But
Okay.
I thought, the 1 Series is something that I haven't driven at all,
Yeah.
and I have I went to the launch of the Mini Cooper electric, and you'd think the Aceman's going to follow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be quite similar. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought I'd go for the BMW on this occasion. And
Very
then
nice.
towards the end of the month, I'm off to LA for the LA Auto Show.
Nice.
And I'll be looking to do a similar video to that Paris one, and I'll be looking to get it out very quickly again.
Mm.
I've got a mate going with me to possibly do a bit of filming for me, but I think the run and gun thing worked really well on the Paris video,
Oh,
and it's probably a
I
bit
agree.
different to everyone else's. So I might just do that again. It worked quite well on the Geneva one as well. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'll probably do mostly that, but at least I've got someone there to give me a hand if need be.
Yeah.
And then we're doing a little road trip while we're over there as well. Not a massive one, but we're going out into the desert again. We're going to visit the world's largest petrol station, which is or California's maybe, I don't know, which is very topical for this podcast. Um, and there'll be some stuff around that possibly on my travel channel, which is called Jet Set Jimbo. So go and check that out if you haven't. There was a quite a cool car museum there that I haven't been to as well, called the Marconi. And if I get time, I might go to that. But we're only there for like 5 days, and usually when I go to the US, I don't sleep at all. So I might have died by then. You never know. And that's about it. I'm moving into a new office space as well, still in my house, but I'm trying to improve the look of my videos and try and improve the sound quality a bit, and just have a nicer place to spend 10 to 11 hours a day than I've got at the moment. So I'm doing a little bit of a series on that, but I'm trying to do it all up at the same time. So that's been a bit challenging with time,
Yeah, of
etc.
course.
But yeah, just loads and loads going on at the moment. Also, next week, just to help matters, just to help my scheduling, I'm going up to Norfolk, which is where I grew up. I'm going up there for a few days to see some family, and a new baby in the family. So,
Fair enough.
yeah, so just too much going on, but too much is better than not enough, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, so beats most jobs, doesn't it? So,
Oh, 100%. Yeah, especially any I've had. Yeah.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Charging Status podcast. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode. You can find us in video on YouTube and in audio wherever you get your podcasts. For a full description of this show and all the links we've mentioned, visit the episode link in the show notes. You can find links to our websites, theinterface.uk and notaguru.co.uk, in the show notes below. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.